Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to the January 16th, 2026 Middle Mile Advisory Committee. And we're going to call the meeting to order. The first order of business is roll call. Ms. Alvarado, please call roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Housekeeping rules statement. Attendees, please note there is time allocated at the end of the meeting for public comment. Presenters, please cue Christine to advance your slides. And committee members, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom to cue the chair to call you on to speak. Now, committee member roll call. Chair Bailey Crimmins.
Here.
Secretary Madoros. President Reynolds.
Here.
Chief Deputy Director Peralt.
Here.
Director Dina Talawazi.
Dave Moore, Acting Chief Deputy for Dina El-Tawanzi.
Senator Gonzalez. Senator Caballero.
Hello. Hi, my name is Mariel Garcia, and I am the field representative for Senator Ana Caballero, and I'll be here representing the senator.
Thank you. Assemblymember Berner. Assemblymember Aguirre Curry. Supervisor Alejo.
Present on Zoom. Thank you.
Supervisor Starkey. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. Well, first of all, again, Happy New Year. Today, you're going to hear critical updates regarding the Broadband Middle Mile Initiative. It is California's historic investment in addressing digital equity. I'm also very excited today to have several special guests. First, online, we have Sarah McCormick, who is an Economic Development Manager from the city of Fort Bragg. We also have the honor of having Chairman Stephen Orihuela from the Bishop Paiute Tribe, and we look forward to hearing their presentations today. Thank you so much for being here. Since we are starting a new year, I do want to just take a few moments at the beginning to say a few opening remarks. The first is the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative is a collective goal. One, to ensure access to reliable, affordable internet services. That's an accessible, basic resource available to all communities, regardless of geography or income. When this program was launched, we set an ambitious goal of accomplishing construction of over 8,100 miles by December 2026. I will level set with all of you. Typically, it takes more than 2 years to build 500 miles, let alone accomplish 8,100 in 4 years. If we subscribed to doing it the typical way, or how it's always been done, this would have potentially been a 10-year project. But that just doesn't work for California and the people that we serve. We have remained focused, agile, and innovative. And as you've seen in prior MMACs, we have had challenges. And it has become evident, based on the challenges that we have received, that we will have to push some of the construction beyond 2026. During today's staff presentations, you're going to hear additional details. You're going to hear about the shared progress that we have made collectively and the challenges that we continue to face, building the nation's largest open access middle mile network. But it is important that we remember the why. Why this once-in-a-lifetime investment and commitment, and how we collectively, between the administration and the legislature, are working together with our partners to continue to invest in Californians and close the digital divide. The Middle Mile Network is designed to be a barrier breaker It is not a solution on its own, but it is a critical backbone that makes these last-mile construction efforts we coordinate with CPUC feasible, affordable, and sustainable, especially in the areas where the private market has not invested. Our commitment is that the state will go where private interests have not and will not at the scale and speed needed to serve communities. Our work is not finished until every single contracted mile in the 8,100-mile network is constructed and operational. That concludes my opening remarks. And as we typically allow each of the Middle Mile Advisory Committee members to also have comments and ask questions, I would like to open it up to my colleagues first in the room and then online. Are there any opening comments? All right, I see none. Are there any online? All right, I see none. We'll go ahead and turn it over to the first presentation. Jared Johnson, Chief Deputy Director at the California Department of Technology, will start the program presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members, and good morning, members of the public. As the Chair underscored, we are here because we have a network to deliver, a network that removes significant barriers to digital equity in California. As we look ahead to 2026, it's important to pause and recognize the excellent progress that has already been made. As of December of last year, we have permitted over 60% of the network and completed construction on over 40% of the network. This is no small feat, considering this is the largest open access middle mile network in the nation. We want to be direct about where we stand on timing. We continue to make excellent progress, but some construction of the network will extend beyond 2026. In January of last year, we identified permitting as a bottleneck in our ability to complete construction by 2026. Without permits, construction cannot proceed. In July 2025, we established a state strike team to address the pace of permitting, and we are already seeing results. I also want to clarify something that often gets oversimplified. When we say permits, people tend to think solely of Caltrans. Permits for this project involve not only Caltrans, but CDT, federal agencies, and our partners working together to prepare, review, and approve permit applications. It's a complex landscape of laws, requirements, and studies, creating a unique challenge for any project, but especially the nation's largest of its kind. And while we continue to focus on these project activities, we also remind ourselves every day that this project is about the people of California and closing the digital divide. Ultimately, the responsibility of delivering this entire network rests with the state, and our commitment has not changed. So we remain on a path to complete the full network, and we continue working to reach the underserved communities that are planning to connect to the state's network. With that overview, I would like to turn things over to Mark Monroe to continue with the executive briefing.
All right. Thank you, Chief Deputy Director, and thank you, Chair. Again, Mark Monroe, Deputy Director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative here at CDT. Our goal continues to be to, Our goal here continues to be to do everything possible to complete the network as quickly and efficiently as possible. Currently over 60%, we can go to the next slide here. Currently over 60% or more than 5,275 miles of the network has been permitted, with 2/3 or more than 5,100 miles of the network having gone to construction, and with fiber construction complete on over 40%, or 3,389 miles of the network. Given where we were in 2021, starting off building the largest network of its kind, there's a reason to be pleased at the progress of the teams and our partners. However, as Chief Deputy Johnson noted, permitting does continue to be a challenge. And the state continues to focus on mitigations and additional opportunities to streamline the process. Recognizing this challenge, CDT and Caltrans have taken a number of corrective steps to accelerate the permitting process. We have refined the network design to reduce reliance on the state right-of-way where feasible. and find alternative routes to avoid some of the most complex segments in terms of permitting. We've compressed construction timelines where we can to do so safely and responsibly, coordinating amongst our contractors and to maximize efficiency. And there are weekly sessions with our partners and Caltrans to move permit packages through the process as quickly as possible on both sides, improving application quality, resolving issues earlier, and accelerating review and approval where appropriate. And these steps are showing positive results. Over the last 3 months of 2025, we're averaged about 75 miles of permits per month. And so far in January, I think we already have 38 miles permitted within the first week. And our partners continue to be optimistic that as they are able to get more miles permitted, the learning curve will generate larger increases in the miles permitted in the future. In parallel, we are working closely with the California Public Utilities Commission to make sure that the middle mile network is aligned with and ready for the federal funding account last mile grant recipients who plan to leverage the network and connect. Our goal is that federal funding account projects come online, that as they come online, they have a middle mile to connection available to them when they are ready and not years in the future. On the operator front, today we'll have updates regarding how the network will be managed and made available to last mile providers. Our current effort to find an operator is on schedule with proposals due on January 28th. So we are in the process of selecting, we'll be in the process of selecting an operator from that time until April of this year, and as we look to start providing service on some segments as early as July of this year. As with other infrastructure projects of this size and complexity, we do anticipate that other challenges will arise, whether they be permitting, construction, huts, electronics, but we will meet any future challenges with the same focus and urgency to keep the project moving forward. We always need to remind ourselves that this project is really about reaching people, and the best way to demonstrate our steadfast commitment is to share our success. We're excited to share that the Bishop Paiute tribe at the northern edge of the Digital 395 route will be the first community to connect to the Middle Mile broadband network. And today we are honored to be joined by Chairman Stephen Orejuela, who will share more about this major milestone in our partnership. And this concludes my executive report, and I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Moreau. Excellent executive report out. I will go ahead and open it up to any of the members who would like to make comments or have questions regarding the executive report out. All right, do I see any online? I do want to also welcome and acknowledge we have Assemblymember Berner and Assemblymember Aguiar Curry that has joined us as well. All right. We see none. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next agenda, which is the California Department of Technology's project update with 3 presenters. We again have Mr. Mark Monroe, Mr. Shannon Martin Guzman, and Ms. Monica Hernandez. We are also joined by Ms. Sarah McCormick, the Housing and Economic Development Manager of City of Fort Bragg, and Chairman Stephen Orejuela from the Bishop Paiute tribe, who will also be presenting as guest speakers. All right, we'll go ahead and turn it first over to Mark.
All right, thank you. Our collective effort over the past 4 years are showing tangible results for the communities that are at the heart of this historic initiative. In March, the Middle Mile Broadband Network will proudly serve the first community along Digital 395 route in partnership with the Bishop Paiute tribe. More broadly, this route spans over 10,000 unserved and underserved households. Early on, CDT recognized the benefits of employing the use of existing infrastructure, such as the middle mile components of Digital 395 that were put into place by the California Broadband Cooperative. So through negotiations, the state was able to acquire assets that would best serve the residents of California. The state then decided to invest in this existing infrastructure to bring it to the same level of resiliency and performance as the rest of California's network by upgrading the huts and installing electronics consistent with the rest of the broader middle mile network. The result is that we were able to make these assets a vital component of California's middle mile broadband backbone. Our commitment to serve the unserved and underserved communities is now becoming a reality. For the first time, households along this corridor will begin connecting to the internet through the state's middle mile network as early as March of this year. This is an exciting moment for us, and especially for the communities being served. I want to thank everyone who contributed to reaching this major milestone. While a long-term permanent operator is still forthcoming, CDT is partnering with GSN, the California Broadband Cooperative, and its operator Onward in the short run to operate this segment as a proof of concept that the middle mile infrastructure is live, reliable, capable, and supporting last mile delivery. Next slide, please. Thank you. Several stakeholders have asked us to elaborate on CDT's envisioned operating model for the network and to clarify the relationship between the TPA, the operator, and CDT. The state is implementing a three-party operating model that includes the state, GSN as a third-party administrator, and an operator. This approach creates checks and balances and enables each party to focus on critical areas of expertise, including oversight and compliance, sales and customer service and connectivity, and network security and field operations. CDT will own and manage the overall program and be responsible for policy oversight, contracts, and financial management and reporting and compliance. CDT will also contract with a third-party administrator, Golden State Net, to help CDT oversee the operator in addition to being responsible for HUT maintenance, network sales and marketing, and future expansion of the network. And CDT will also contract directly with the operator, who will be in charge of the day-to-day operations, network monitoring, and service level compliance, incident response, third-party dispatch, as well as customer relations. And again, GSN, with its industry expertise, will assist CDT in managing the operator to verify performance. This model creates risk diversification where no single party bears the entirety of risk because it becomes shared amongst the three parties. Operations and network reliability lie with the operator, customer management lies with the TPA, and oversight and compliance with the state. The model ensures that no single party can put the network at risk by underperforming because responsibilities can be temporarily handled by others as disputes are resolved. Next slide, please. Here in this slide, you'll see how the model really maximizes the value for the state while ensuring a reliable support structure to operate and continuously enhance a middle mile network of this size. We are deliberately leveraging the distinct strengths of both the third-party administrator and the network operator to provide disciplined business and contract administration, deliver day-to-day network operations, monitoring and maintenance, and to support long-term performance, reliability, and scalability of the network. It's important to note that these roles are intentionally non-overlapping. Each function is clearly defined and mutually exclusive, while collectively ensuring that CDT and the middle mile broadband network receive the full range of business, operational, and technical services required. And we can walk through a few simple scenarios here for some examples. Such as when the TPA is negotiating a contract with a last mile provider, it will work with the operator to validate the services that will be provided and then bring the agreement to CDT to approve and sign. This will then serve as CDT's direction to the operator regarding the services to be provided. If there's a break in service, the operator will address any repairs with electronics and work directly with our RFI Squared partners to repair any fiber. And then again, GSN will assist CDT in verifying that services were restored. And in its contract with the operator, CDT will provide for accountability by identifying the operator's responsibilities regarding performance metrics and compliance monitoring, service level agreements, regular reporting, independent audits, customer feedback mechanisms and channels, operating transparency, and incident response. In these ways, each party brings its unique expertise to the table, working in sequence and coordination to achieve a successful activation, from commercial readiness and contracting to technical validation, turn-up, and ongoing operations. Go to the next slide. And lastly, as you can see here in the timeline, we've been and will continue to do fiber sales, and our TPA GSN will share more details on the progress we've been making on that front later in the presentation. As you know, the RFP for the operator closes on January 28th. So between that time and April of this year, we will be reviewing the proposals and making our selection by the end of April. At which point we will start operationalizing additional segments of the network as they become ready to connect. Before I turn it over to Mr. Shannon Martin Guzman, our project delivery manager, for a more detailed update on the work progress of each partner, as well as the status of the huts, I'd like to pause for any questions.
Do you have any questions from members? I do not see any, but I do want to recognize Trevor Taylor, who is here for Senator Lena Gonzalez. Thank you, Trevor. All right, we can continue.
Thank you. The program continues to work diligently to meet our goal of an operational network by December of 2026. And as noted earlier, we plan to have an operator on board by July of this year, which would enable some routes to enter operations phase before December. Today, I will be reporting on the progress made by our MNBI partners, along with a high-level recap of the obstacles the program has faced over the last few years while continuing to get more miles in the ground. In closing, I will report on the status of the hut installations. Next slide, please. Since the October MMAC session, we have increased our installation miles by almost 800, and as of today, we have a little over 5,200 miles in active installation throughout the state, which includes over 3,300 miles of conduit, fiber optic cable, and corresponding vaults in the ground right now. As shown on the slide, 65% of the network is permitted, with 42% of the network in the ground now. I would like to note that the blue lines on the map represent 45% of the network, which is still in the pre-construction phase, while designs are being finalized, permits and right-of-way grants are obtained, and environmental compliance is achieved. While there is still a lot of work to do, you can see that there is active construction taking place in communities that are dependent on the middle mile, including but not limited to the Bay Area and some of our more rural communities across the state. Next slide, please. All right, some of our on-the-ground realities. First off, I would like to start by stating the fact that we all know. It's tough to build in California, but for all the right reasons. California is a beautiful state where we are doing everything we can to preserve what we have worked so hard to protect. California is one of the most geographically diverse states in the country, and that in itself presents its own challenges. While we are able to plow up to a couple thousand feet of trench in a day where the terrain is open and flat, we may only be able to bore a few hundred feet a day depending on the rock type and soil conditions. Especially in our more mountainous regions. In addition to the diverse geography, a multitude of state, local, and federal authorities having jurisdiction to enforce these protections is needed. To combat this, the program took a proactive approach to reduce time it takes to achieve compliance by implementing programmatic approaches, developing MOUs with applicable federal bureaus, and refined processes to expedite approval. The state and MNBI partners continue to collaborate with all involved to deliver as soon as possible. While we do acknowledge that there are challenges, that is not stopping us from continuing to progress towards our mission of closing the digital divide and getting that required infrastructure to the unserved and underserved communities in California so they can be afforded equal opportunities for economic development, educational opportunities, and medical services. Next slide, please. The first partner I would like to report on is American Dark Fiber. They are currently assigned 901 miles of the network. They are in the pre-construction phase on 352 miles, active construction on 415 miles and have completed 134 miles, which is an increase of 100 miles since the October session. Next slide, please. Next, we have Arcadian. Arcadian Infracom has moved to the construction phase on 186 of its assigned 1,004 miles. While the number of miles in active construction may be concerning, the program anticipates a significant increase of miles in active construction by the April MMSE. Today, Arcadian has completed 20 of the 1,004 assigned miles. Next slide, please. Our next partner is Lumen. They're responsible for almost 1,900 miles of the middle mile broadband network with both joint build and lease components throughout the state. Lumen primarily has existing conduits in the ground, which was a catalyst to them having over 1,500 miles of construction completed along critical backbone routes of the network, which will be essential to getting connectivity to some of the more rural areas of the state. Next slide, please. Next is Hoopa Valley. The Hoopa Valley Public Utilities District is a joint build tribal partner representing the Hoopa Valley tribe and is responsible for a 23-mile route in Humboldt County along State Route 96. Hoopa Valley is making great progress, having completed pre-construction and has installed approximately 9 of the 23 miles of conduit along the route with vault and fiber installations planned for this summer. Next slide, please. The Yurok Telecommunications Corporation is another tribal partner within the program representing the Yurok tribe. This partnership consists of 50 miles of leased fiber for 2 unique routes as displayed on the map. Ytel is currently performing pre-construction on 22 miles, active construction on 21 miles, and has completed 7 miles to date. Next slide, please. Sysqutel. Sysqutel has recently provided a change to the original route for an optimal build and is responsible for installation of 163 network miles in Siskiyou County. Sysqutel is currently concluding their pre-construction on 89 miles and is in active construction on 6 route miles where they were able to leverage existing conduit. To date, Sysqutel has completed 68 of the 163 assigned miles. Next slide, please. Vero is a joint build partner with 26 miles in Humboldt County along the Northern California coast. Vero has completed all pre-construction and is now in active construction on a 2-mile bridge crossing going across the Arcata Bay. A 10-mile segment along the east side of the Arcata Bay and a 14-mile segment near the city of Trinidad are now construction complete. Next slide, please. CVIN has over 2,600 miles of network assigned to them throughout the state. Currently, CVIN is in the pre-construction phase on over 1,300 miles, which includes a lot of environmentally sensitive areas and routes with documented cultural resources. CVIN is in active construction on 686 network miles with 623 miles completed to date. Next slide, please. Next is the Karuk tribe. The Karuk tribe is another tribal joint build partner in the program who will be constructing 2 essential segments totaling 45 miles in Humboldt County. 15 miles are in the pre-construction phase with 30 miles in the early phases of construction now. Next slide, please. Next is the Gateway Cities Council of Governments. The Gateway Cities partnership consists of 74 network miles traversing through 24 cities in Los Angeles County. This section of the network is currently in the pre-construction phase on 67 network miles with 7 miles in active construction now. Next slide, please. Next is the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Street Lighting. The City of LA Bureau of Street Lighting agreement is for a 13-mile segment from downtown Los Angeles to Gardena along the 110 on local roads. Less than 1 mile remains for pre-construction with 11 miles in active construction and 1 mile completed to date. Next slide, please. Next is the City of Fort Bragg. This is a joint build partnership for a 4-mile stretch on Highway 1 through the middle of the city. All pre-construction has been completed and we are in active construction on the entire route and making great progress. Next slide, please. Next is the Tolowa Dene Nation. The Tolowa Dene Nation is another tribal partner in Northern California region within Del Norte County. The Tallwood Dene Nation will be constructing a 19-mile segment along Highway 101 from Crescent City to the Oregon border. They are the newest partner within the program and is currently in the pre-construction phase for all 19 miles, with construction forecasted to start in March of 2026. Next is Digital 395. This slide displays the Digital 395 network that we purchased from the California Broadband Cooperative. The network operates along the Highway 395 corridor, totaling 423 miles and 11 huts across San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono counties. We have made great progress in getting this route prepared for operation. As Mark mentioned earlier, only a few tasks remain before we can offer services and connect the first community to the network. Next slide, please. Next is Zayo. Zayo is a joint build partner that completed all 194 assigned miles at the end of October last year. Next slide, please. Next is TPN 299, also known as Trans-Pacific Network. They are a lease partner that completed all of their 171 assigned miles in May of last year. Next slide, please. And next is Bolden. Bolden is a lease partner responsible for our Bay Area routes traversing through both Oakland and San Francisco. Bolden completed all of their 81 assigned miles in June of last year. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about a major phase of the project that kicked off earlier this year. And this is hut construction, which is critical to getting services to the routes that we just reported as being construction complete. While in theory, the steps presented on the slide seem pretty straightforward, there are a lot more that takes place behind the scenes before we can move through each of the phases. For example, for an engineer to complete a design is something that can be done in weeks, but there are many tasks that must take place before you can have a 100% design set that is stamped and approved. This includes, but is not limited to, site selection, which brings its own challenges, environmental clearance, right-of-way approval, state fire marshal approval. Concurrently, while pre-construction is taking place, the huts were being manufactured and quality assurance, quality control inspections had to be performed before full production could begin. To date, all hubs are manufactured with a few minor modifications taking place before deployment this year. Then we move to the construction phase, which also presents a unique set of challenges, starting with development of the site. Depending on the level of development that has taken place at the designated location and the availability of power, the level of site prep is going to vary. The state has been collaborating with utility companies over the past 2 years and have begun pre-construction sessions to plan for inspections and ensure that all involved are aligned before construction commences. Locations where the site is already developed may require minimal environmental work, grading, and excavation, but will likely have the presence of existing utilities that must be accounted for and not impacted. While areas with slopes and elevation changes may require retaining walls, rerouting of existing drainage systems, and creative engineering to ensure the locations can accommodate all of the required components, including generators and emergency backup fuel tanks. And then finally, we get to the phase of electronics installation, which we are starting as soon as the site has power, with power plants commissioned. This is where we get to the technical side of things, which always has its own challenges. But with the installation of state electronics in the huts along the Digital 395 corridor, we were able to test the process and identify efficiencies for future installations. Next slide, please. The photo on the right is a milestone that I have been looking forward to since joining the program about 2.5 years ago. It has been quite the path to get to this point, but with the installation of the hut, it gets us one step closer to opening the door for communities to connect. The Middle Mile Broadband Network has a total of 139 hubs needed for the entire network, with 107 being deployed on Caltrans right-of-way, 21 going on public and private lands, and 11 along the Digital 395 route. Our third-party administrator, Golden State Net, has played a significant role in the pre-construction of anything that falls off Caltrans right-of-way and is leading all permitting and design efforts on these huts. GSN has submitted all 21 design packages to the state fire marshal and received 100% approval. They are currently working on submitting building permits along with assisting in negotiating lease agreements with landowners. These hubs are strategically placed every 50 miles and will be needed to operate the network. As noted earlier, 11 hubs were procured as part of the Digital 395 transaction, with remediations and upgrades addressed over the last 6 months. And as of today, electronics have been installed in all 11 sites. In addition, we are in active construction at 5 new sites and plan to start construction at an additional 52 sites in Q1 of this year. In closing, I would like to say that I am looking forward to 2026 and the amazing accomplishments on the horizon. The end is in sight, and this network will be built. That concludes my updates, and I would like to open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martin Guzman. Excellent work, progress overall. There's a lot that we were talking about. It takes all of us to bring it all together. I think that what you just presented does an excellent job on showing us all the pieces. So I'd like to open it up. Do any members have questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Secretary Maduros.
So for those, I appreciate the progress, and it sounds like the pace of permitting has really improved, which is great, and the construction progress. For those areas where there may be gaps at the end of 2026, and there are FFA grantees who are looking to connect, can you talk a little bit? Are there mitigation efforts or other things that we can do to make sure that people are connected?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. That's something that's really important to us. And so we're looking at a number of alternatives. We met with one of the sponsors, and I think it's 7 different FFA projects yesterday. And part of what we were doing was to look at what is the schedule. They're not all going to start in the same day. So how do we coordinate our efforts on, in terms of the permitting, in terms of the construction? How do we target that? So we have a team of people who are working with these FFA awardees to look at their schedules and see how do we focus and organize our rollout and in terms of permitting, in terms of construction, to be ready when they're ready. So broadly, that's how we're approaching that. And then one of the things we'll be looking at too is, to the extent there is a gap, maybe we need to look for some sort of temporary lit service or something to be able to provide that connection. So we're kind of looking for all alternatives, because reaching the households, that's really what we're building this network to do. And those FFA awardees, that's what they're doing. And so it's really, I think we've got about 47 of the FFA awardees that are planning to connect to MMBI. And so we're working with each of them to look at the schedule, look at the options, and then as we move forward, we'll kind of see, okay, where's our status? Do we have the permits? Is the construction going to be done? And what is their schedule looking like? And then what alternatives do we need to be considering to make sure that they do our best to make sure that they get service when they're ready for it?
So you are looking at alternative options to make sure that the connection starts on time as construction completes on
Yes.
those last. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from any members? Right, I don't see any. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and go on to the next part of the CDT update, which is stakeholder engagement with Deputy Director, Ms. Monica Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to give you all a brief summary of our last stakeholder engagement meeting that was last year and preview what's ahead for 2026. Next slide, please. At present, we have set the calendar for our stakeholder meetings, with our first one just a few weeks away. I'd be remiss to not delineate that these larger group meetings are cross-sector in addition to regular meetings the Middle Mile team has with stakeholders and partners across the state. We bring this group together for increased transparency, feedback, broader dialogue amongst our interest areas across the state, and frankly, to help open up connections with stakeholders. And we have seen new partnerships develop amongst community groups and advocacy groups as well. Next slide, please. Last year's final stakeholder meeting had lower attendance and lower evaluation responses, and that was a trend that we saw throughout the year. Even though we get lower survey response than we would like, We have several key stakeholders who regularly attend, engage, and give us feedback at these meetings, which we have taken to heart and frankly has helped increase our transparency online as well. So we believe that there is still value in these meetings, and we have no intent to stop them, even if that trend continues. In our last meeting, we heard key themes. There were questions and concerns about the affordability of last mile service and pricing models. We heard concern and questions about consumer protections and terms of use for internet service providers and last mile customers. Questions about operations timeline and communications with internet service providers around pricing and consumer protections. While we don't have concrete answers in that meeting or presently, we are very cognizant that these are priorities for our communities, our partners, and stakeholders around the state. And we hold our own responsibility. When we can communicate, we will. A lot of this is negotiation and under legal ties to not publicize, but we take it seriously and we will communicate more when we can. As we progress through the meeting calendar, we will continue to monitor attendance and feedback and pivot format or frequency as needed. Now, I'm excited for the best part of my presentation, which is turning it over to our guests. You often hear me and our partners talk about our strong partnerships and relationships. It's one thing for me to talk about it. It's a much better thing to hear from our partners. So our first presenter is Ms. Sarah McCormick, an economic development manager with the city of Fort Bragg, and I've dubbed her the unofficial connectivity and digital equity champion for Fort Bragg and the surrounding area. So we have Sarah joining us virtually, and I will turn it over to her now.
Thank you so much. Good morning to the entire Middle Mile Advisory Committee, chair, staff, everybody. Apologies for not being there in person. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take the day off because we were so busy up here with broadband. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view of our town. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you so much. You can leave that slide. Left this slide because it's fun. You can see really the west side of Highway 1, which is where we have the joint build. That's the delineation that you're seeing between a mill that has been our main economic driver for generations that had closed in 2002, and we are really looking to diversify our economy, and this ability to connect to high-speed, affordable, reliable internet is going to really assist us. Next slide. So just want to do a big shout out to the governor, the state, CPUC, everybody for putting these funding programs together. We've taken advantage of all of them. We use the LATA funds to bring our desktop designs to construction level detail. We have received $10.3 million from the federal funding account program. At the time that we received those funds, we anticipated that was, about 90% of our costs. I just want to reiterate the importance of this project being collaborative and challenging, and the commitment and being agile, like you said, Chair, and innovative has been essential for us. Our project is now closer to 20 million, and we have really taken the leap with some debt financing loans, and also Congressman Huffman chose this project to have congressional appropriated funds through the community program. So we're just really grateful for everybody who's helping us put this together. Of course, you all know about the joint build that we're doing with CDT. We are nearly complete with the drilling. We started simultaneously from both the north and the south end of towns, and we are meeting in the middle. The construction in our downtown will occur on Tuesday and Wednesday this upcoming week. And then as soon as all of the conduit and the vaults are placed, restoration will come through and the fiber will be pulled. And it's just really exciting to just to see everything in action. Next slide. Oh, they should have waited for all of that for this. So let me just reiterate how helpful CDT team has been and the Caltrans team. We meet on a regular basis once a week to just kind of discuss the next work for the next week, any issues that have come up, and it's been a really solid team. We have a lot of rain up here. We have a lot of cultural resources up here. It's not an easy place to work, and I think that everybody's really, really working together to make it a successful experience. Next slide. All right, a little bit more about our project, which it's so exciting. We're building an underground fiber distribution system that's going to offer 1 to 10 gigabytes per second connectivity to all homes, business, public safety locations, everybody, every premise in city limits. The network is using a centralized data hut, and that's equipped with all the core routing and firewall and maintenance switches, the OLT equipment. This data center will connect to 15 distribution areas. Currently, we have completed the underground drilling on 13 of the 15 distribution areas, and we're looking to have the entire project wrapped up in advance of our June 31st FFA deadline. In fact, we've already requested 2 reimbursements through FFA, and we're ready to do our 60% reimbursement through FFA. So this is just an extremely exciting project. Next slide. Exciting is one word, disruptive is another word. Doing underground utilities in a community that doesn't even have our existing utilities mapped out in any comprehensive way has been challenging. The community has really been patient. We've hit a lot of sewer laterals. We've had a lot of repairs. It's just a really big project, and people have got, we've all got to be agile and flexible. This is an exciting picture for us. On the top there is our data hut being lifted into place. Right below that, we have the truck with our fiber spools on it, and then some action shots with conduit being staged out in the field, and a picture of one of our alleys being drilled up. Next slide, please. This is very exciting news. So the city acquired an internet service provider. That was part of our goal. We have a really unique situation where we have an internet service provider that's been run out of the school district for the past 30 years. And they've done a tremendous job connecting the coast. We here in Fort Bragg are 7,000 people, but we are also the commercial hub for the greater coast, which encompasses about 20,000. This business uses fixed wireless, old copper infrastructure, and their technology is aging out. We didn't want to put them out of business. We wanted to keep the expertise local. And so we worked with the school district to actually acquire Mendocino Community Network, and have brought on 10 new employees and hired a new broadband utility director, Sage Stateham. So we are well on our way. Next slide, please. And just to shout out all the things that you were talking about in the very beginning about why this is important for equity, it's being a public utility. What's really exciting is that we're not just looking at how we can build this infrastructure, but we're already looking forward into how we can ensure that our community can access it effectively. We're working with our senior centers, our healthcare centers, our schools to really identify opportunities to provide trainings, resources to our community. And there's going to be a lot more exciting things to come that I can't wait to tell you about. And next slide. At the end of the day, this is a huge lift. I know you all have thanked everybody, but we just want to thank you as well. Thank you. We appreciate all the work you're doing and your leadership. It has been a very stressful but rewarding project. And with that, I will close.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We appreciate the partnership. We're excited for the transformational investment for your community and statewide. Chair, I'll turn it back to you to moderate any questions from members.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Any questions? All right, President Reynolds.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Monica. And I really wanted to direct my comments to Sarah at the City of Fort Bragg and just congratulate her and the team at the city for all of the work that they've done. I remember when the CPUC issued the technical assistance grant in the beginning when they were designing their project, coming up with the idea, and then they implemented that and came forward with a fantastic FFA project proposal, and we were able to award a grant to them at that time. And just, I'm so pleased to hear the report on all the work that has been done since then, and just looking forward to continued collaboration with the CDT team, our staff at the PUC, and the City of Fort Bragg. So I appreciate hearing the update. Thank you.
Thank you, President Reynolds. Any other comments from any members? All right, I don't see any, so I'm going to turn it back over to Hernandez to do another introduction.
Thank you, Chair Bailey Crimmins. And next, again, best part of my presentation, I get to turn it over to Chairman Stephen Arihuela with the Bishop Paiute Tribe, another one of our partnerships. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here today, this morning. Manahu Inaniine Stephen Orihuela, Bishop Away Nukimedu. I just said hello. My name is Stephen. I come from Bishop, California. Thank you for allowing me to be here again. Thank you to Shannon and Mark for queuing up the Digital 395 and the Bishop Paiute Tribe. Next slide, please. As was explained, Bishop Paiute Tribe is in a very remote region of the state of California. We're on the eastern side of the mountain range. Go ahead, next slide, please. As you can see, we're about 5 miles away from the connection point, which is a very important connection point for the Bishop Paiute Tribe. The current connection is publicly funded but privately owned. So it requires bottom line coordination between tribes, local jurisdictions, and private owners. This project is very important because before talking about some of the programs and the cases that we have, it's important to start with the foundation itself, what broadband represents for our tribal community and tribal communities at an infrastructure level. For our tribal community, broadband isn't a luxury, it's a core infrastructure component. Just like roads, water, electricity, reliable broadband is essential for full participation in today's economy and society. Tribal ownership and control of broadband networks are especially important because they strengthen our sovereignty and ensure that decisions are made locally based on community priorities rather than outside interests. Yet, tribal communities remain among the most underserved areas in the country when it comes to broadband. This gap, especially where we're at, being in a rural location, reinforces existing inequities and limits economic and educational and health outcomes, as what was mentioned earlier. At its core, broadband is foundational to access to opportunity in this modern day era. When infrastructure gaps exist, especially for tribal communities, or when tribes lack ownership or control, the impacts aren't abstract. They show up very clearly in people's daily lives and in the local economy. Reliable internet directly supports our tribal enterprises and all tribal enterprises, every small business out there, artisans, artists, entrepreneurs, by expanding access to regional, national, even global markets at times. Broadband also attracts investors, investment, enables remote work, and helps keep economic activity going, and also keeping good paying jobs here within tribal communities rather than forcing residents to leave to find opportunity elsewhere off reservation. It also helps access to online training, certification programs, higher education avenues, supporting lifelong learners and workforce development. And in the healthcare realm, broadband enables telehealth, significantly reduces long travel times for medical services that we see in Bishop, which is especially critical for tribal elders and individuals with mobility challenges. Being in a remote location, the nearest major hospital is 3.5 hours away, 4 hours away. So if anything critical that happens in our local neighborhood and our small health clinic cannot handle it, you got to fly or you got to drive. And a lot of times there's insurance complications. So it does help limit that divide there. When you take a step back and look at these impacts together, whether they're economic, educational, or health related, it becomes clear that broadband touches every aspect of the community's well-being. Overall, tribal broadband isn't just an investment in technology, it's an investment in our people, economic resilience, tribal sovereignty, and the long-term future of tribal nations. From a middle mile perspective, this work only succeeds when tribes are meaningfully included in planning, access, and coordination. For many tribal communities, the middle mile may be physically close, but operationally out of touch or out of reach due to ownership structures, access terms, and gaps in coordination among the jurisdictions. Ensuring that middle mile infrastructure is accessible, interoperable, and supportive of last mile tribal networks requires coordination between tribes, continues the state, counties, and the state and private providers must be grounded in respect for tribal sovereignty and long-term sustainability. When tribes succeed, surrounding communities succeed as well. Tribal broadband investments strengthen regional economies, improve service delivery, expand workforce participation, and create shared benefits that extend beyond the boundaries of the reservation. When middle mile investments are designed with tribes as partners, not an afterthought, they become true enablers of connectivity, self-determination, and shared statewide outcomes. And I just wanted to wrap this up by saying the Bishop Paiute Tribe was the recipient of a National Telecommunications and Information Administration, the NTIA grant, which is going to help finish up the last mile project, and that leads into fiber to the home project for the Bishop Paiute Tribe. And we could see speeds up to 200 times faster than what we have now, which is really going to help our local economy and help our youth get schooling what they need, help our elders, telehealth, and then ultimately transform what we have now into a tribal internet service provider, which is going to greatly benefit the Bishop Paiute Tribe, and then in the hopes of broadening that prospect off reservation to help the rural economy of Bishop and Inyo County. And then with that, my closing thought, thank you for having me here again, and Manahovu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it back to you to moderate any questions we might have.
Great, thank you. And again, honored Chairman Oiwela to have you again here, and just all the great progress. It does take a true partnership and having the shared core values when it comes to inclusion and diversity, and just bringing technology to rural parts of California that sometimes get overlooked. So important. So thank you. I would love to open it up to any members that would like to make comments or have questions for the chairman. I do see President Reynolds.
I just wanted to add my appreciation for your presence here today. Really appreciate having you here, and it's just an honor to hear your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, President Reynolds. Any other questions or comments for the chairman? All right, I don't see any, but thank you very much. Pleasure. All right, we're going to go ahead and shift to the next agenda item, which is Caltrans's update. We have Elias Karam and we have Ong Mong, who will be giving the update on where we are in the great partnership we have with Caltrans. I'll turn it over to Elias.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Bailey Crimmins, committee members, and others from the public. My name is Elias Karam, Program Director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative at Caltrans. Thank you for this opportunity to share an update on the progress Caltrans is making to support the statewide Middle Mile Broadband network. Next slide, please. In collaboration with the Caltrans Division of Traffic Operations, we will provide an update on two key areas of Caltrans responsibility. the Caltrans build, and the issuance of encroachment permits for the CDT partner builds. Next slide, please. We will first be providing a status on the Caltrans build, which includes two main components: the design and construction of 300 miles of middle-mile fiber infrastructure along the state highway right-of-way, and the design of 107 network hubs. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the scope of the Caltrans build, in which we are responsible for the delivery of 305 miles of middle-mile fiber infrastructure. As was shared at our October 2025 MMAC, all of the 305 miles have successfully completed pre-construction activities and are now ready for construction. Specifically, 178 miles are currently under active construction, 7 miles are being explored as Dig Smart opportunities, and 120 miles have already been fully constructed. We are on track to complete construction for all Caltrans miles by the end of 2026. Next slide, please. Along with the fiber construction, Caltrans is also responsible for designing the network hubs. As this slide demonstrates, the current status of the 107 network hubs is as follows. All hubs have completed preliminary design, 101 hubs have completed design and are ready for construction by CDT, and 6 hubs are actively in the design phase and are expected to be complete by spring of 2026. Next slide, please. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, who will provide an update on the status of the CDT partner encroachment permits.
Thank you, Elias. Good morning, Chair Bailey Crimmins, committee members, and others from the public. My name is Al Mong. I'm Caltrans MMBM Joint Build Permit Liaison with the Division of Traffic Operations, which includes issuance of encroachment permits. Next slide, please. I'll be providing an update on the status of partner builds encroachment permits today. Next slide, please. To start, I would like to provide a high-level summary of MMBM encroachment permits. As Caltrans collaborates with CDT on partner builds, CDT anticipates 3,337 miles of middle-mile broadband network to be installed on the state right-of-way. As of January 13, we have received encroachment permit applications for 2,878 miles. In addition, we have received preliminary applications for 445 miles. These preliminary submittals include only general project information, such as county route mileage for the anticipated application. They had not yet been formally submitted. The different stages of anticipated and submitted permits are shown in a horizontal sequence across the slide. Of the 2,878 miles submitted applications, Caltrans has issued encroachment permits for 1,045 miles, as shown on the right side of the slide. Caltrans district teams are actively assisting CDT partners to complete design and environmental studies for the remaining 1,833 miles of permit currently in intake screening and functional review stages. This coordinated effort is critical to ensure Caltrans has the completed documentation to review and approve, and subsequently able to issue encroachment permits. The numbers and the data presented today are from Caltrans encroachment permit system, also referred to as SAPS. Next slide, please. This slide represents encroachment permit miles and the status. Give me 1 second. This chart shows month-by-month progress of MMBM encroachment permits since December 2024, going from left to right. Each bar represents accumulative miles at the different stages of encroachment permit process. Dark blue on the top are the miles that issue for encroachment permits been issued. Light blue and the yellow are the miles for which work is underway by CDT partners supported by Caltrans to complete design and environmental, paving way for the encroachment permit approvals. Light pink, the one in the bottom, are the miles noted in the preliminary applications. I'd like to note the positive trajectory from July of 2025 onward, as Mark noted earlier, reflecting significant efforts of Caltrans and CDT teams, including co-facilitating the monthly discovery workshops to proactively address CDT partners' concern, clarify requirements and the guidelines, and maintain alignment. In addition, holding weekly check-ins, permit-intensive meetings that bring CDT partners, CDT and Caltrans together to track progress, resolve issue, and provide support and information to help our partners accelerate their deliverables. Next slide, please. This slide represents encroachment permit miles and the status by our CDT partner. Focusing the chart on the right side of the slide, the partners are listed alphabetically, and the horizontal bar represents the distribution of mile across the permit process, consistent with the stages shown on the previous slides. They are the same category, preliminary application shown in light pink, application in progress, yellow and light blue, issue encroachment permits in the dark blue. Next slide, please. This slide, using the same layout, presents the number of encroachment permit applications by a partner for the miles presented in the previous slide. I would like to highlight that of the 683 permits, encroachment permit received, as shown on in the bottom left, Caltrans have issued 354 permits. That is about 52% of the encroachment permits that we receive. Some of these permits cover small localized location rather than the continuous segment for work such as crossing the highway, connecting to the other network segment outside of state right-of-way. These permits might have minimum or no mileage associated with them, but they do help CDT partners establish the essential connection necessary for building up the network. Next slide, please. This chart shows encroachment permit Caltrans issued each of the previous 3 years to support the delivery of middle mile broadband network. Caltrans is committed to assisting CDT partners completing the application. We committed to expediting the issuance of the encroachment permits and supporting the successful delivery of the MMBM network. With this, this concludes Caltrans' update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karam and Mr. Mong. Excellent progress, and I'd love to open it up to any members that have any comments or questions. I see none in the room, but I do see Assemblymember Berner online. Assemblymember, we cannot hear you if you speak anytime you'd like. Still unable to hear you. We will come back and make sure, we'll come back to you, Assemblymember Berner, when the technical difficulties have been resolved. Okay, any other members that would like to speak regarding Caltrans' update? All right, I see none. Thank you very much, but we will give Assemblymember Berner an opportunity once she is able to get back online with her audio. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and shift to Golden State Net, our third-party administrator and their CEO, Eric Hunsinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. Want to do a quick review of the TPA responsibilities We've been managing this now for 4 years, working on the program with CDT. We've brought to the table a really concentrated commercial perspective to give CDT a lens on what the best practices are in the telecommunications sector. And so we lend that oversight to ensure that the ADM partners are meeting the goals of SB 156 through any means possible. Just as a reminder, one of those items was mid-span interconnects to reduce costs of construction for last mile partners. So oversight with that specific lens really ensures CDT's success. In addition to that, we've been given responsibility for some of the things that operators aren't really tuned to do regarding the HUTS management. There's parts and pieces there that are somewhat inane, but are necessary to ensure the viability of the network and make sure that the electronics and the network is running effectively. We also have responsibility for business development. And at that moment, we're in the pre-sales phase, and we've done quite a bit of work to generate interest in the network. Of course, that leads directly to sustainability for the network. Because of that closeness to the potential customer base, we're keenly aware of the need for network expansion in response to those demands by customers. That could include, bringing points of presence onto the network that are in demand, or extending to new partners as they're ready to get onto the network. Next slide, please. As Mr. Martin Guzman had noted, we're responsible for all the hubs that are not on Caltrans right away. At the moment, we don't have anything that's in 100% completion yet, so we're not ready to build, but we're very close. Most of the 20 out of the 21 hubs have a lease in place. The fire marshal has been engaged and approved all of the plans. Power is ordered to or designed to all the sites, but we still are working on air quality approvals and site readiness. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been in an effort to generate interest in the network, and so we actually started that 2 years ago, but it's been formalized with partnership of CDT just to ensure that we're pursuing and aligned in our goals to create sustainability. We have at the moment about just shy of 30 opportunities quoted out to the marketplace. And I want to emphasize these are not related to the FFA awardees. These are commercial quotes that we've given. So carriers, internet providers, some of them are interested in last mile infrastructure. Some of them are interested in point-to-point connectivity for their own businesses. But we have roughly $310 million in opportunities quoted out to the marketplace. We believe that 3 entities are, even though the network isn't complete, are interested in maybe signing a contract with CDT this year, potentially by second quarter. So we're kicking off connectivity, and there's strong interest in what the state of California has developed. And that concludes my presentation, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsinger. I would like to open it up to anybody that has questions. I see none in the room. See if anybody online. Yes, Assemblymember Berner.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Well, let's see if this works. It's not how I prefer to do it. For the TPA, one of the things that I have spoken with you about and, I'm concerned about is how the governance structure is going to work. So could you provide the committee work on an organizational chart and workflow matrix to determine how the relationship between the three parties is intended to work. What's in law, what would be in the terms of agreement, and what maybe is open to discussion, because I want to make sure we get the governance structure correct. We're going to use a 3-entity arrangement. Zoom is not responding. Oh my God. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Assembly Member. We are bringing up the relationship slide in between Mr. Hunsinger, who's obviously in the blue box. If Mark, you could reiterate the relationship and answer the question that Assembly Member Berner asked.
Yeah, I don't see the slide.
Oh, you don't see? It's on this. It's, I think, the other.
I'm sorry. We're having technical differences. You know, it's great for technological update, but it's not working. Nothing here is working. So, yeah. But yeah, if you, I don't know if you can. I don't know how to see the slide. I see myself right now. I see MM's AC chambers, but I don't see anything else, and I can't scroll.
Okay. We can describe what is on the slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, pardon, Monica, did you have a?
Apologies for interrupting. I can very quickly get online and email this slide to the Assembly member.
I can't look on my computer and be on this. I'm sorry. It's like a ridiculous. This shouldn't happen, but this is what's happening. So.
Can I also just make one suggestion? I think it's definitely worth going through the slide, but it may also be helpful to provide the Assembly member with even a more detailed structure and see, to have a more detailed layout of what may be done by contract, if there's anything that needs to be done through the state, or, because while I think this is super helpful, it may not provide the level of detail to answer her question as I understand it.
Okay. So it sounds like an action item for us to provide a deeper dive. Assembly Berner, do you still want us to, at least at a high level, talk through the relationship as we set up a separate meeting to have a deeper dive?
I see the slide now. I see the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I see the slide. You don't have to talk through it. I understand. SB 156 outlined very clear relationships between CDT and the TPA. And we're now adding a layer of complexity. And I have some questions about that to go back to. But we're adding a layer of complexity. So the detail that I'd like to see is what is it codified through SB 156, which is state law, so people can't violate state law. What is codified through their terms and conditions, and how TPA and the operator are supposed to work together. Because basically CDT is contracting with both of them, and there's no arrangement between the TPA and the operator. So that's the governance structure that could go awry, and we want to prevent it from going awry, right, from the beginning. So that's what I'd like to see clarified for the next MMBI meeting. And my understanding is that the existing TPA didn't bid on the first RFP because CDT was requiring an upfront cash payment, which they didn't feel made business sense. My understanding is the second RFP did not have that requirement. So did the existing TPA bid on the second RFP?
We're in active negotiations right now. I don't think we can talk about the solicitation specifically, but you do have the CEO of the third-party administrator here in the room. I guess the question then is, should we bring this back? I'm going to look at the members. Should we bring it back and not only have a separate meeting, but is all the membership interested in having a more detailed terms and conditions conversation? I want to make sure we're transparent. So is that the recommendation from the members? Okay.
Yes.
I wouldn't wait a whole quarter. Okay,
I mean,
to do an ad hoc.
what you can provide or written response, but we should also, I think, maybe then discuss some of this in the April meeting if there are concerns with any of the members. But I also think with the GSN lead here, I don't know that, I mean, if there's an answer that can be provided, I don't think there's anything precluding him from discussing whether or not they've bid on the second. I mean, I'm not aware of.
We we made the choice not to bid on the second round based on our collaboration with CDT and some of their expected requirements. We felt that they needed somebody tailored for operation that was already staffed completely to do some of this work. As a reminder, this entire effort has been evolving, right, from inception and funding to planning, which we were a key part of, and then shaping how the network was deployed. But we are not staffed at this point with people on the ground. I mean, is there a potential that we could? Yes, but we'd have to grow into that relatively quickly. But you'd have to confer with CDT on what they have negotiated in their second round. I'm not part of those negotiations, so I'm not sure what they've been able to craft.
Thank you for that. Can I just ask a follow-up question, not related necessarily to this, but to your presentation in terms of the sales, which I really appreciate your GSN's work on that. Which is obviously a vital part of starting to generate some revenue for this so that we can, it can become sustainable as quickly as possible. Are you seeing growth in demand? I mean, what sort of...
That's an interesting question. For fiber, yes. There was a major shift a few years ago in how particularly hyperscalers manage their network. In the early 2010 or so, there was a lot of focus on equipment and electronics to meet broadband connectivity, but hyperscalers have realized that they can do more effective connectivity with just fiber, right? So they're throwing fiber at the problems, right? But and the net result is they need large counts of fiber, actually more than the state has put in place. Now, I will say that there are some unique attributes to the state's network, the routes that have been prioritized. One in particular we're discussing this morning was the 101 route. Nobody has that route, right? So that is going to be of strong interest to many, many commercial entities. There was recently a subsea cable that was put into Eureka. And so there's a lot of diversity requirements needed, and the state is going to have something very unique there. In addition to that, many of the carriers are constantly looking for alternative paths. And while there are commercial partnerships that the state has created, many of those companies aren't selling their infrastructure to the commercial space. Like the feedback that I've gotten from some of these folks that I've quoted that have asked for these quotes on the slide is they can't get that infrastructure from the ADM partner that the state has, but they could get it from the state. So I do see an increase in growth. And interestingly enough, there's a number of companies that are moving into California that are actually interested in providing last mile connectivity as well. So they have the goals of SB 156 already in their business model. And so they're interested in leveraging the state's infrastructure so they can meet their business goals. Does that hit some of what you, yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsinger. So we have an action item based on some member burner. We're going to bring more detail about the terms and how the codified in law the relationship between CDT and its third-party administrator and the operator. So we will do that for April and also look for the opportunity of sending something out sooner based on Michelle's recommendation. Okay, any other member comments or questions for Mr. Hunsinger? Right, I see none, so we're going to go ahead and get our final update.
Sorry, Chair, can we go back to Caltrans now that I have a voice?
Pardon, Assemblymember Berner?
Back to Caltrans.
Oh, Caltrans. Oh, yes, we'll
I
go
had a
back.
bunch of questions
Yes,
for Caltrans
because
on that presentation. My audio didn't work.
sure, absolutely. So we will go back to Elias and Mr. Mong, if we could. Is there a specific slide or just that you wanted to look
So
at?
we might want to move through the slides as I ask the questions. I'm really concerned. Well, let me just go through the questions since we've kind of jumped around. What work remains for federal approval and what are the timelines? I didn't really see in the stages of all the different projects, and this is for the partner build. I didn't really see how much work is outstanding because, you know, I've always been very concerned about us finishing and the permitting delays, and I've pretty much been very vocal about that for the past over a year. So what work remains for federal approval? Do we have a timeline for that? And you describe what kind of work it is and who is completing it?
Okay. Elias, are you ready to answer those questions?
Yes.
Okay. Is this the right slide that you want to speak to, or you want a different slide?
We can stay on this slide.
Okay.
Yes, as far as Caltrans to issue permit needing federal approvals are only for the permits that on the interstate where we need encroachment policy exception approval from FHWA. There are only about 20 or so permits.
And how many miles do those 20 or so permits cover?
It is about 360 miles.
Okay.
However, for us to submit it to FHWA, that package needs to have a complete design environmental, which we kind of working with our CDT partners to get to that stage.
All right, I see two hands up, so I'll get them in order. Also, we have Maduros, Secretary Maduros, and then we have Chief Deputy Moore. So first, Secretary.
Can I, as I understand it, and maybe it would be helpful for people listening, as I understand it, though, for all of the right-of-way miles, you're operating, or, you know, you're operating with federal delegation, so you do have federal FHWA rules that you are required to abide by with some of the things that third-party builders must submit. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Because they are federal requirements, and you all are responsible for overseeing them in some of these instances that are off the interstate, as I understand it. But am I correct in that? Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
So just to clarify that, a couple of things. Caltrans is responsible for NEPA compliance for miles that are on system. When it comes to anything federal, like federal land management agencies, those are separate approvals, and Caltrans is not involved in that process. And Caltrans issues encroachment permits without verifying that the partners, CDT partners, have obtained their approvals from those entities. And so it's probably proper to turn to CDT to talk about how they engage with those federal partners and how they track those approvals with their partners.
But in terms of the NEPA piece and the cultural resource piece, which I believe are federal requirements, I mean, I know you're working in this daily, but for those of us who are not, can you maybe explain how that works? Because as I understand it, they are federal requirements that you all are, you know, you have the delegated authority to, I mean, but they're federal requirements, not state CEQA requirements, but still require a lot of work on the part of the third-party builders.
So when it comes to getting environmental compliance, when it comes to the Section 106 and Section 7, in most cases, almost all cases, they use a CE categorical exclusion for that approval. In a few cases, they've required a higher level environmental document that takes a longer time. We had 3 of those total on the entire Caltrans build, so it's very rarely occurs that a higher level environmental document is needed. But again, like when it comes to the federal partners, the partners work directly with the federal land management agencies without Caltrans involvement. They can ask us for assistance when they have issues or roadblocks they'd like to help work through. But those partners are responsible to work directly with those federal agencies.
So those are like BLM and those, is that what you're talking about in those instances where you need to get permit need to get BLM approval, for instance, to go through BLM land.
Yeah.
But as I understand it from the builders, I mean, as I understand it, the environmental piece, even with the categorical exclusion and the cultural resource piece, it's no small, as I listen to you, it sounds minimal. As I listen to the builders, it doesn't sound, it sounds like it's a substantial process to go through. Maybe we can, hear from builders, but I'm just trying to align what I hear from you with what I hear from others.
Yeah, no, thank you for this question, Secretary Madros. I'd like to call back what Chief Deputy Johnson said at the beginning. There are many stakeholders involved in these projects, and permits are much larger than just Caltrans approvals. And so as he stated very well in the beginning, there's many entities that are impacted. They're all a different action and different approval, and the partners are responsible for getting those approvals from all other state and federal agencies, in addition to Caltrans.
Under the CE, you have delegated authority, but as I understand it, the CE, even with the categorical exclusion, there is a requirement. You can't waive the NEPA and the cultural piece. Isn't that the part of what's occurring here?
I'm not sure I'm following fully the question on this. Can you, maybe I'll, Chief Deputy.
Chief Deputy, do you want to, Mr. Moore, would you like to make a call?
I think maybe to clarify, Elias, if you could provide, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're basically saying is there's potentially 3 different touch points with different federal partners. For the Caltrans side, the touch points are, if we have projects on the interstate, right away, we have requirements with Federal Highway Administration to get their permissions and approvals for those projects. In terms of the environmental NEPA regulations, we're delegated that authority to act on behalf of Federal Highway Administration to make sure that the environmental rules and laws are followed in the NEPA process, correct?
Yes.
And then the third part is on the partner builds, our partners are working directly with different federal landowning agencies if they have projects on their land for the specific permits that they need.
Yeah.
So depending on the different touch points, and the NEPA process is sometimes a difficult process, especially if you do have presence of sensitive biological species or presence of cultural sites. And that part is the responsibility of Caltrans.
Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Chief Deputy. Assemblymember Berner?
Yeah, so I think this whole conversation illustrates maybe the challenge with this is that normally when we're saying we're providing assistance and we're going to help our partners build out this once in a generation infrastructure, there would be some roadmap. If I can barely follow this and we're going back and forth on who's doing what when, it's clear to me why there have been delays. And so maybe as we go through this and we start tracking, it seems like Caltrans has a direct responsibility, they have a delegated responsibility, and then there's other agencies. That's what I took away from that whole conversation. I only see part of somebody's head nodding, so I hope that's accurate. Secretary Madera, that's who I see part of your head, so that's what I'm looking for. But when somebody's building in California, they know they have to do different levels of government. It's not like anybody doing these projects didn't know that. I think it is on our side to make it clear and easy and transparent, right? That is part of the things. And maybe it's one of the lessons we learned. So maybe the next question is, what lessons have we learned from how to do this and, implementing major projects across levels of government that we can take forward? Or is it something that we need an audit to like tell us where are the challenges, what needs to be streamlined so that large projects, when they're building like this, I mean, we're talking about here about broadband, but you could think about this for transmission lines, you can think about this for other areas of the state that we would need some coordination. And it seems like there's still this challenge in coordination, which is delaying the middle mile deployment.
Assemblymember Berner, a question. Would it be helpful in April for the remaining miles to show, because I know CDD tracks with our partners, including Caltrans, what permits are needed for which sections? Because not everyone needs to deal with the Coastal Commission and others. Would that be helpful? We do track every single.
That would be really helpful to see, because I think, one thing is we want to expedite this without sacrificing proper review, right? Like, I'm not advocating for sacrificing proper review. So expedite this so we meet our deadlines. But I really think it's important that we take these as lessons learned to see where is the friction for these things so that we don't replicate this again in a future, either a broadband issue area or another issue area in our state, right? We want it to work for people. When we're building infrastructure, we want it to work for the people building, and we want to work, because ultimately when it works for the people building it, it should work for the people receiving broadband, right? Like, you want that to work. So yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. So status on where we are across each of those verticals and the lessons learned that we have across the network, both would be valuable to the members, sounds like. So thank you, Assemblymember Berner.
Yeah.
All right. Do I see any other questions or comments from any other members? All right, I see none, so I will go to the next agenda, which is Maria Ellis from the California Public Utilities Commission.
Good morning, committee members. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Maria Ellis. I'm the Director for Broadband Initiatives at the California Public Utilities Commission. Next slide. Before we dive into CPUC's last mile programs and our update, I just want to take a moment to recognize the importance of the middle mile effort that we're all working towards, and the importance of the Broadband for All initiative in general. The number of agencies and programs and organizations and individuals that have to come together to make this happen is mind-boggling. And it's really achievement and a milestone that we should be very proud of. On the right side, there are some key outcomes here that we believe at the California Public Utilities Commission that the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative will bring to the state. The MMBN is an important and transformational investment in California that will pay dividends for years to come. It's an important economic development initiative for the state of California. It's going to support affordable and reliable broadband networks to enable the improvements of public safety, workforce development, healthcare, education, and the economy in general. It's going to support rapidly growing technology demands like data centers and our own data consumption as individuals in our homes, and empower Californians now and forever and for future generations. And the benefits of this infrastructure can be leveraged well into the future, and not just now and well into the future. Currently, I'm going to talk about this as part of our last mile update, but we do have around 64 projects total in our last mile portfolio that have indicated they have an interest in possibly connecting to the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. I'm going to speak more about that later, but that is an indicator of the immense interest in my mind for these last mile providers to see the value proposition of an open access network. Of course, grantees will have to determine the locations of where they will interconnect, and they will need to sign up with CDT. But this partnership is working, and CDT is providing as much as information as they can in coordination with grantees as possible along this process. CPUC is thrilled to be supporting this once-in-a-lifetime investment that is going to enable high-speed access for Californians. Next slide. And actually, before we move on, these are a couple of groundbreakings for the Middle Mile that CPUC has had the opportunity to participate in partnership with CDT on. One is from Sacramento, and one is from a project in Arcadia with Arcadia. Next slide, please. So a very familiar slide. Our mission here at the CPUC is to deliver programs that fund the deployment of safe, reliable, and affordable broadband service across California, especially in communities that lack this essential service. This slide just takes a quick snapshot of some of the programs that we implement here at the CPUC, specifically several of those related to the SB 156. I'm going to start off I can certainly provide an update. We'll provide a deeper update, but I just want to flag we hit a huge milestone with the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program since our last update, which is that we submitted our final proposal. I'll talk more about that later, but this is a $1.86 billion program that is a federal program through the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Of course, we've got our California Advanced Services Fund, which is a state program and is a suite of 6 different sub-accounts that provide grants for a variety of things such as public housing, infrastructure grant accounts, adoption, and more. We've got our $50 million loan loss reserve program, which was awarded to a grantee, Golden State Connect Authority. Not Golden State. Golden State. I almost went to my colleague here at the table. GSCA, and then lastly, our last mile federal funding account, which is an almost $2 billion program that is a multi-year funding program. So it is appropriated over years for making investments in last mile. Next. Okay, I want to start in with talking a little bit about what we've been able to do with BEAD. As you recall, back in June of 2025, June 2025, NTI made substantial changes to this program. And this came after 2 years of states across the country working on the rules outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity that was issued by NTIA before this change came into play. So the state, and as well as many other states, had to shift very rapidly to implement the new policy priorities outlined in this restructuring policy notice. This is now really called BEAD 2.0, and the California team worked really fast to implement this new policy and open up new rounds of funding based on the new policy priorities from NTIA, so that we could be able to bring this before the commission for consideration in December. I'm really happy to report that the CPUC was able to achieve 100% coverage of all BEAD eligible locations, which is a monumental task. Our California actually ended up having more BEAD eligible locations by tens of thousands, almost 100,000, more than any other state in the country, and had a smaller proportionate allocation when you're looking at those numbers. We reached more locations with less money. That's what that means in essence. And we maximized the state's allocation for the deployment of infrastructure to meet these locations. And we also maximized the deployment of priority projects, meaning those projects that, according to the Notice of Funding Opportunity and Restructuring Policy Notice, met the standards of what is qualified as a priority project. So really proud of this work. This program is currently we have submitted our final proposal to the NTIA, and the NTIA is reviewing our final proposal. All of the contents of the final proposal, including our proposed subgrants, may be modified by the NTIA. And so we're just want to note that that is something that we're watching carefully. But the good news is we've received feedback that our final proposal looks really, really good in terms of not needing as much curing as a lot of other states have received. So very proud of that. Next slide. Okay, moving on to the federal funding account. Since our last update, I want to share that we have closed round 2 and made another series of awards in both in December and yesterday, the commission awarded another set of projects. This round 2, we received 72 applications from 21 entities requesting roughly $600 million. And what we've been able to achieve with round 2 is that we've been able to fund projects in all 58 counties of the state now. And round 2 is really focused on those 6 counties that didn't receive an award the first go around. And so now we've been able to achieve a goal of at least some awards in each county. The federal funding account is, like I said, a multi-year funding program. It is a mix of both state and federal funds, and we hope to continue to make additional grant rounds pending appropriations. There's $550 million that is slated has been penciled in 27-28 budget. If that is able to materialize, we would hope to continue to invest and round out what is, in essence, would be a $2 million program at that time. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our success stories here, the city of Gustine and Merced. The goal of, with the goal of funding these programs, we've been able to, this program has now completed this project in Gustine. It's 37 miles of bird conduit in the central office. It's going to benefit over 6,500 Californians. And this is a population that is, poised for growth. And this project is going to be really phenomenal in terms of the impacts it's going to have for the small community. I know that, folks, I am the last thing that is standing between you and being able to get to lunch. But here, just wanted to let you know that we're here to answer questions. We're going to be able to highlight future stories of success as more projects are coming to completion. And we'll tell you, we're very envious of the great work the CDT does in terms of communication and telling those good stories. And we're really excited to be able to tell our own in 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Excellent update. I do see that Supervisor Alejo has a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And Ms. Ellis, thank you for the presentation. I represent Monterey County, and we were one of the last 6 counties who had not received any funding, I think, from the FFA account. Could you elaborate on what was awarded? Because this is breaking news. As of yesterday, and I raised this with staff yesterday in our briefing, we were concerned because Monterey County, as you know, was the home of those 2 little girls that were photographed by one of our county employees outside the Taco Bell in East Salinas. And our county was one of the first to champion for a multi-billion-dollar bond that eventually came SB 156. And we were one of the first counties to form a JPA specifically focused on disadvantaged communities in South Monterey County that is chaired by my colleague, Supervisor Chris Lopez. But as of yesterday, we were informed that those disadvantaged communities were passed up despite getting a technical assistance grant for the JPA from the CPUC and submitting their application and being turned down twice. We were informed preliminarily, and I hope to hear different from you, that our county received a relatively small grant that was focused on expanding broadband to our cannabis nurseries to an affluent community or nearby, but that the disadvantaged communities in South County, many of those who were farm worker communities, were passed up once again. I hope that is not true, but if you could elaborate on what was awarded to Monterey County, because it would go against everything that we've been talking about equity and extending broadband to disadvantaged communities, those who have been waiting for too long. I hope that the state and the CPUC did not pass up those communities once more.
Thank you for the question, Supervisor. The CPUC did make a grant in Monterey County to the California Broadband Alliance. And so part of how the CPUC evaluates applications is that we have a holistic review of technical, feasible, market feasibility, design, that's just to name a few. And then projects also go through an objection period where parties are able to object to an application for a variety of reasons, and those get evaluated and cross-checked to address whether an application warrants some or partial objection, full or partial objection, excuse me. So while we did make an investment in Monterey County, it might not be the application you're referring to. Unfortunately, I'm not able to speak to applications that are not approved in this setting. However, I do want to say that in addition to this federal funding account grant that the CPUC has made in Monterey, the CPUC has also made 2 additional awards from the California Advanced Services Fund program, specifically the infrastructure grant account in Monterey County in these areas in recent years as well. So certainly it is an area where the CPUC is seeking to make investments in broadband.
Well, I would ask if I could do a follow-up with you to get more details, because just for all this advisory committee and all the goals and everything the governor and the legislature has said, for me, it's a glaring example of the people that we're supposed to be extending service and providing resources to, they are getting passed up. And for a grant to be awarded to cannabis nurseries over poor, disadvantaged, low-income farm worker communities, it's really a glaring example of injustice, and that we're not fulfilling what we said we were to the people of California. And I have to say, because we waited patiently for this grant, and it's been passed up twice. We followed up multiple times about it, and to hear this news, it's really it really leaves that sense of injustice for these communities, and it's hard to report back to our community that despite sitting on these advisory committees, that the communities in our own backyard are still being ignored once again by the state. And I just wanted to put that on record. Thank you very much. And if I could follow up with you, I would really appreciate that meeting.
We'd be happy to follow up, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, for the question. Is there any other questions or comments from the dais? I see none. Any in online members? I see attendees already starting to put their hands up, but we'll make sure we're dealing with that in the public comment. Any questions from members? Okay, I don't see any, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the last agenda item is public comment. Ms. Alvarado, if you please provide the public comment guidelines and then begin that process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In order to ensure everyone who wishes to make public comment has the opportunity to do so, we respectfully request 1 person per entity and 2 minutes per person. The order of public comment will be online public comment submissions prior to meeting, Zoom hands raised, and phone hands raised via *9. We have not received any emailed comment submissions prior to our meeting, so we will start with the public comments in the room and then via Zoom. Not seeing any public comment in the room. We will go to online comments. Tracy Ryan with RCRC. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, members. Tracy Bryan with Rural County Representatives of California. First, I'd like to commend the Middle Mile implementation team for their hard work with our team on the details of our builds to ensure that all the same places are being talked about, and when that switch does get turned on, that the last mile can provide the service to the end user. They've been very collaborative, and we very much appreciate that. We also appreciate the efforts by leadership to keep the lines of communication open with us, especially as an FFA awardee. But we do want to take this opportunity before this body to reiterate the importance of ensuring that not only prioritizing middle mile network segments that enable FFA awardees to complete those state-funded projects in those largely unserved areas, but also to take into consideration the use and affordability of that middle mile network or that end user network, and that those projects that are serving disadvantaged communities or or are in collaboration with municipal partners, CBOs, or other non-incumbent ISP partnerships are affordable for those network providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Next, we will go to Patrick Messick.
Thank
Please
you,
unmute
Chair,
yourself.
members of the council. I want to express the City of Oakland's gratitude for CDT and Caltrans solutions-oriented partnership. We are moving forward in lockstep to actualize these transformative investments and translate them into 21st century access. For Oakland, this network is not nice to have infrastructure. It's foundational to the success of Oakland Connect and our ability to deliver affordable, reliable connectivity to tens of thousands of households who have been priced out of the market for too long. As we've explored access to other private market open access infrastructure, we found costs that are alarmingly prohibitive and in practice undermine the very competition and public benefit these systems are meant to enable. That experience reinforces how critical it is that the middle mile remain a true public good, priced and governed to maximize downstream impact. And with the leadership of this council and in deep partnership, we have full faith that those commitments can be actualized. We deeply value our partnership with the state and the council and look forward to continued collaboration to ensure this historic investment delivers public goods for public benefit. Thanks again and looking forward to ongoing success.
Thank you, Mr. Messick. Next, we have Ben Hewlett. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ben Hewlett. We're with the Last Mile FFA awardee for 4 grants. And I just want to make a comment on the importance of streamlining the permit process to meet our deadlines. Us, even at the last mile section of this state project, we're seeing significant delays in permitting, which is totally delaying our project and ability to move ahead. And we're a little bit concerned about meeting the 2026 deadline. And as an example of that, we have encroachment permits into Caltrans simply for traffic control that are requiring cultural archaeological studies for simply momentary traffic control. And that has delayed our permit since June. We're now backed up in our construction scheduling. I just would like to provide that feedback and suggest to CDT that they focus on streamlining the permitting process with Caltrans and the other agencies as much as possible. I think that's extremely important. I've also been told by Caltrans that last mile permits to Caltrans are in second position with middle mile, and I understand that. However, you know, if it's delaying the last mile, that's an important piece as well. So I just wanted to enter in that comment, and that want to register our experience in the permitting process and the concerns that it raises in meeting the deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewlett. Next, we have Lindsay Skolnick. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Skolnick. I am here speaking on behalf of the California Alliance for Digital Equity, also known as CADE. First, I'd like to thank CDT for continuing to host the MMAC meetings as we kick off 2026. These meetings, as well as the stakeholder briefings, offer digital equity stakeholders and members of the public a valuable space to weigh in on the MMBI's progress. And we feel maintaining a two-way channel of communication is critical as MMBI development continues. While it's unfortunate to hear the MMBI construction will not be completed by the end of the year, we greatly appreciate CDT's candor about the delays and the agency's commitment to working with the CPUC to ensure all FFA projects planning to connect to the MMBI stay on track. Many FFA projects are tied to tight development timelines their grant requirements, and therefore it is essential the state prioritizes completing construction on the MMBI segments connecting to those projects. Further, in the spirit of maintaining transparency, once CDT knows which segments will be completed this year, we encourage you all to share that information with stakeholders and the public. So many of us are eager to see this historic project advance and soon get to the finish line, as we know the network will have a lasting positive impact on bridging the digital divide across California. Thank you for your consideration of my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Skolnick. Seeing no one else in the room with public comment, back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. As we're in closing, I just always love to open it up to committee members. A lot was discussed today. Any questions, comments at the dais first? Thank you for your continued partnership. We can't do it unless we're all in sync, so I appreciate all of our hard work. I also want to give an opportunity for members that are online. Thank you for all the questions that you did make along the way. We're going to go ahead at this point and just thank again the committee members, the presenters, the attendees, both in the room and online, for all your contributions today. Our next meeting is Friday, April 17th, 2026, from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. And with that, we will call the January 16th, 2026 Middle Mile Advisory Committee adjourned.